Hi, I'm Zoe, your resident wildlife reproduction enthusiast.
Hey, Jenna here, your endangered species conservation aficionado. Our topic today focuses on the iconic giant panda and how stress in captivity impacts their reproduction, which is essential for the species conservation.
Giant pandas, while very popular
and super cute,
are critically endangered, according to the IUCN Red List,
which stands for the International Union for the Conservation of Nature.
The giant panda has an estimated population of fewer than 2,500 reproductively able individuals in the wild, and that's continuing to decline.
That's bad news for those bears. Currently, the giant panda is confined to 6 mountain ranges in eastern China. However, they used to live from southern to northwest China and the surrounding countries. Because the population went through a bottleneck, which severely cut their numbers, it would make sense to assume that they lost their genetic diversity.
And that diversity is important because this variation allows them to adapt to a changing environment.
However, a loss in genetic diversity is not the primary reason for their population decline. In fact, it is due to their extremely specialized diet of primarily eating bamboo, and human action which has destroyed that habitat.
Human population expansion has increased the need for food, which has led to the development of the giant panda's ideal habitat into farmland. This expansion began 250 years ago and continues today, which threatens the survival of the species. However, the recent conservation efforts have allowed the species to persist.
Pandas have a unique evolutionary place in history because they are unlike any other bear.
And they're adorable.
Unfortunately, pandas are not surviving or reproducing in the wild, so they require human intervention.
Zoos!
Zoos are important for conservation because they bring people and animals together in an effort to save important species. Zoos are using the latest and greatest research on animals in the wild, and they apply that knowledge to effectively manage captive populations.
Science!
And they also raise awareness and funding for threatened and endangered species to support conservation efforts in the wild.
Part of the conservation effort is establishing captive breeding populations. The goals of these programs include increasing population numbers and maintaining genetic diversity. There are several problems that zoos have encountered when trying to breed pandas. Reproduction is a chain of events in which a weak link at any point in the chain will cause reproductive failure.
If one thing is wrong, then we can't have cute panda babies.
Those babies are cute. One challenge that pandas encounter is a phenomenon called pseudo-pregnancy. This means they show all of the physical and behavioral signs of pregnancy without actually being pregnant.
Dang nabbit!
There's also the problem of male-female interaction in captivity. Females are quite selective about who they choose to breed with, and it's no different in zoos. Since each zoo only has a few individuals in their breeding population, male acceptance of the female is also a huge problem. If one panda isn't interested, they will not mate.
Denied!
Another challenge is that if the male gets frustrated because he is naive, he will get aggressive towards the female, further hindering copulation. There is also concern with the female's safety, since they are such invaluable animals. For this reason, artificial insemination is used regularly, once they have tried it the natural way.
Not only are males more aggressive, but females are more timid. Timid animals are more susceptible to stressors that they encounter regularly in the captive environment. This can include the presence of visitors, novel objects, and unusual noises, and even interaction with their keepers.
Loud noises! Stress, meaning anything that causes an imbalance which requires a physiological response to correct, must be avoided if we hope to have successful giant panda breeding. The response to stress is a multi-step process. First, the panda perceives a threat, which can be any environmental stimulus, such as a predator. What happens next is a chain of events known as a stress response. Stressors activate the hypothalamus in the brain, which releases corticotrophic releasing hormone. CRH acts on the pituitary gland, which then releases adrenocorticotrophic hormone. This acts on the adrenal cortex, which secretes cortisol, which is a stress hormone. The stressor also activates the sympathetic nervous system, which stimulates the adrenal medulla, which produces epinephrine, another stress hormone. These hormones together start the stress response.
Stressors normally require immediate action, like running away from a predator. As such, the body directs energy towards the muscles. Along with that, heart rate, blood pressure, and breathing rate increase to provide the necessary nutrients and oxygen to the tissues that are being used for the response. Memory function can improve, and their senses become sharper. However, the animal's pain response can be blunted. During periods of stress, other less essential processes slow down. For example, energy storage processes cease as the body directs nutrients towards the stress response. Activation of the stress response can negatively affect immune system function and appetite. Growth and tissue repair also slows. With stress, sexual drive decreases in males, who experience a decrease in testosterone, and females experience a reduction in reproductive ability, causing a weakened expression of behavioral estrus, which inhibits ovulation and can even cause early termination of pregnancy.
Sad panda.
In the wild, pandas experience this short-term stress relatively infrequently and have plenty of time to recuperate. The positive outcomes
Survival.
far outweigh the negatives. This is known as acute stress, which serves as a brief emergency coping mechanism. Recognizing how this stress has affected their animals, zoos are taking steps to reduce the chronic stress. For pandas, managers allow time to acclimate to other pandas and their surroundings.
When impending estrus is observed in females, they are moved to enclosures next to males, which is about 2 weeks before estrus. They have the opportunity to get used to each other's sounds, scents, and visual cues. This management technique has been shown to reduce aggression and increase motivation to reproduce.
Pandas are also provided mental and physical exercise, such as novel ways to get food and toys. Managers are making efforts to design larger, more natural enclosures. They are improving husbandry practices by making sure zookeepers are sensitive to anything that could be stressful to the pandas and focusing on kinder, gentler keeper interaction. They also want to try to mimic social and reproductive patterns pandas would encounter in the wild. Since pandas are especially sensitive to noise during estrus and lactation, they have been trying to limit human exposure by improving crowd control measures. Zookeepers and researchers have even dressed up in panda suits to accomplish this. While many improvements to panda management and interaction have been made, further steps are required to ensure the species survives.
Since we are reasonably sure that the underlying reason for the declining giant panda population is not low genetic diversity, but is actually due to habitat loss, there is a viable solution. By protecting what ideal habitat they have left, and focusing on improving captive breeding programs by reducing stress in pandas, we can bolster their population and one day reintroduce them to the wild. Well, I'm Zoe.
And I'm Jenna.
Thanks for joining us today, and I hope you learned something.